What is the hold this TV series has over knitters and crocheters? Today, I want to help you recreate some knitting and crochet looks from the Gilmore Girls. What is the hold this TV series has over knitters and crocheters? Aside from the fact that there was an entire episode called Knit People Knit.
So what exactly are you knitting?
Well, it doesn't matter what I'm knitting just to knit.
So much philosophical.
When that Year in the Life came out, there were knit-alongs happening all over the place. I was part of one. We were all disappointed after the show came out, but preparing for it as a group was a big deal. It was a lot of fun. And Lisa Lucia came out with those knitting patterns at Ponomuff, dots and dashes, the jumbo coffee sweater that you could knit and have your own little piece of Gilmore Girls. It felt like marketing directed straight to knitters. I don't know if that's ever happened before. What is the deal? It's centered around women, but men like it too. Ruben said he watched all the way up to Rory got in college, and then he was like, I'm out. But my husband made it through the series twice. I am a knitter and a crocheter, but I gotta say, I watched the Gilmore Girls for those Friday night squabbles at the dinner table.
Well, I think we've officially reinstated Friday night dinner.
If you're not a fan, and several of you said you're not, and I'm surprised at how many of you have never even watched one single episode. I mean, you're gonna be okay. You're gonna still see a lot of knits that are interesting to you. Macon said the only thing she remembers about the show is that everyone was too talky and it was just a little overwhelming. I hate to tell you this, Macon, but as I talk about this very talky show, it may be overwhelming, so maybe take it in chunks. Before we start trashing Rory, let's start with Lorelai.
It's the last time I buy anything just because it's furry. It's Sam. Don't even think of finishing that sentence. What? Nothing. I just didn't know the rodeo was in town.
Several of you said you could identify with her or you preferred her over most everyone else in the show. You may have wondered how she has the ability to afford this revolving wardrobe and her historic New England home. Before you jump to conclusions about this, watch Kendra Gaylord's video that I'm going to link. It would be possible for a single mom to eke that out. I did appreciate it when Lorelai would wear an outfit more than once. It made her seem more relatable. Like I could kind of identify with someone in the show other than Luke. Her quintessential look would be like a concert tee or a baby fit football jersey type tee under a leather jacket. Second runner-up would be a deep V-neck sweater or a turtleneck that's very fitted under her beloved corduroy jacket with the fleece lining. A lot of her jackets and things, sweaters, were cropped. Spoiler alert, if you didn't catch it in the 4 million hints they gave in the episodes, she was a young mom. When she is at work, they do have her looking pretty dressed up. I think that her look was almost always very feminine. Most of her dresses were floral. And a lot of that had to do with the style at the time in the early 2000s, but there were lots of ruffled cardigans over floral dresses, delicate shrugs, plunging V-neck. I think it was kind of an intentional contrast of her cowboy boots and Daisy Dukes at home, you know? They were showing that she had pulled it together, she could be professional, she had made it. Which of these looks could you find a pattern for and make right now exactly to match the ones on the show? The Knit Guru has a free pattern for a very basic 2x2 rib beanie that Lorelai wore with a pom-pom on top. I have these all linked. A really cool one is Samantha Gent remade the crochet throw that Lorelai has across their couch in the living room. I really love that throw. It's surprising. I would have thought they would have gone with really vivid, bright, granny square type throw because Lorelai was kind of into funky interiors, but this is actually a knit, I think, or a crochet. Anyone could get on board with. It would be a fun one to remake. You could make it look exactly like the one in the show, or you could change the colors. It would also make a really good gift, so that's for free. Several of her striped scarves have look-alike patterns out there, and they're in all the various shapes that she wore them, because she wore a ton of scarves in the show. There's skinny scarves, crocheted, textured, ribbed, skinny stripes, and wide stripes. There's the blue textured, solid scarf with fringe that Marion VB on Ravelry has made. I think it's a free pattern. It looks just like the one Lorelai wore. And I've heard that if you wear it, you too can smell snow. This vertical striped Lorelai Gilmore scarf, there's a pattern on Etsy. It looks exactly like one she wore in the show. I think it's a standout piece because it's vertical stripes, which is different. And those tassels, they have a macrame type look to them, the way they connect to one another. I think it's really neat, and you don't have to do any like finagling. All you have to do is buy the pattern, read it, make it. So are there any Lorelai looks I would bother trying to figure out and reverse engineer? Probably not. I do like her concert tee look, but, and I do want to I want to knit a concert tee sweater. I showed you on Instagram. I have a Duran Duran design I totally want to do. She also has some Dr. Horrible style gloves. They're gloves, they're not fingerless mitts like in Dr. Horrible, but they're really cute striped gloves with buttons on the sides. That would be a fun one to recreate. It would also be really easy. All right, so most of your sweater action is going to happen with Rory.
Is there anything there about me?
I don't know. Your name wouldn't be Lithium, would it?
In the beginning, the writers wanted to keep her looking youthful, idealistic, childlike. But she was a little Felicity frumpy in the beginning, which I love. There will definitely be a Felicity episode, okay? Yeah, those oversized sweaters, like that's where in season 1, that super cabled, generous ease sweater that you see so many people talking about as the Rory sweater. I think it is the most coveted fall TV inspired knit out there. And I don't think there's a pattern for it. Several of you have made it. Katinka made it several years ago and gave it away. And Hannah just finished hers. And I'm going to put a link in the notes to Hannah's on Instagram. It's so good. I feel like that's like the perfect first fall outfit, to the point of, you know, it's not really winter yet and they're sweating in this giant cabled thing, but it's like, no, I need my fall fix. I didn't realize how serious people were about rewatching the Gilmore Girls every fall. It's like a fall tradition.
So there's 7 seasons. That's 154 episodes times 45. That's 6,900 minutes. 115 hours. Plus the final season, 122 hours. And you're telling me that every fall these people watch this? You would have to watch this show 5 days non-stop. I don't believe it. I don't see it. I don't see
TikTokers
it.
multitask.
She's down.
Lori mentioned how inspired she was by their fall sets. And I can see why you would be, living in Texas and Arizona. I used to watch Vlogmas strictly to watch people show their life who lived in the snow. Like, I literally just wanted a taste of a season besides summer. And that set has been used by a lot of other shows, and people have fun saying, hey, that's not in Pretty Little Liars, that's actually Stars Hollow. And I think Katie said she actually toured that set. So we have Rory, young girl, slightly little frumpy, cozy sweaters. There's that, it almost looked pilled, purple knit sweater. There's the blue one that actually has a look-alike pattern out right now. She has lots of details like patches and little polo collars and things that are kind of sweet. There's that one V-neck Fair Isle sweater. It just looked really vintage and cute. At this point, I think her comfy girlish looks are meant to contrast her mother, who's like a hot mom, right? So whereas like Rory's like hiding flesh, right? She's got everything pulled up in long sleeves. Lorelai's making up for it by exposing the midriff. I think they really wanted to play that contrast. There's this image, it sets you up for the beginning. This young, idealistic girl, you've got your youthful mom who raised her way, and then you've got these grandparents who look kind of anachronistic. It's somebody's idea of stodgy old money, right? At this point, Rory still seems so sweet. She like tempers the people around her. She seems to care about everyone in town, do favors for people. She's very beloved, and she seems like a good friend. Even her grandparents, she's reaching out to them, creating bonds that weren't there before, and kind of trying to smooth her mother's relationship with the grandparents. She goes to private school, and she still remains humble. Then comes the later Chilton and early college years. Her look is kind of more fitted at this point. It was the style. Fitted cables. There's more argyle. Lots of argyle. There's so much argyle in this show, but you know, we could all feel Ivy League with a Target sweater back in the year 2005. So who do you think did argyle the best? Rory or Lorelai? Because they both did quite a bit of it. By the time Rory's in college, I feel like her character is at this choose your own adventure point. The writers could have done literally anything with her. She could keep going in the direction her mom raised her to go in, to have some integrity. Even though she was, you know, propped up by a small loan of $1 million, still, she could move forward with gratitude and make a great contribution to her community. Even after being a bad, flaky girlfriend to Dean, who hasn't made a mistake, she's a teenager. I am an adult watching this. It would be weird to hold her selfish, flaky teenage decisions against her. And Colleen shares that point of view. She's a kid. And at this point, it's all really believable. You can forgive her for not being fully formed. But what about a woman in her 30s? That's when it got hard. It felt really real at first. I bought it all. Even the affair with Dean. I could see that. But who would have thought that one day Jess would have the higher moral ground? That she would pale in comparison to him? Does she have a reason for all of the selfishness and angst? She-Bear and Katinka would agree that no, she does not. As she enters college, she's got more of a business casual kind of knitwear thing going. Still very fitted, but everything's a little more cropped. And she's got that look, it's kind of twee. Makes me think of fashion bloggers in the early aughts. The cables and the vests, they're ever present. And there's this one vest, it's kind of an off-center X, very graphic, like I was talking about in the last episode. I would totally love to recreate this vest. But most of the looks she has are skirts with tights and boots and bangs and Zooey Deschanel look. Because, you know, that's the time. Oh, and a lot of Hollister looks too. So aside from the cables and the argyle, Rory does do a lot of stripes all through the show, and they are all good, all of them. I remember one kind of square neck striped sweater that she wears in particular that there's some button tabs at the neckline. It was really cute. I really like that detail. I think that would be a fun thing to add to a sweater that doesn't even have that. Another one, when she was younger, it was kind of like rainbow bright sleeves, striped sleeves on the sweater. A lot of people have tried to recreate that using Telly Bean Knits sock arms pattern. So that's one. You might modify it a bit, but it has the look of a Rory sweater. What patterns are out right now that you could modify or use to make a very Rory inspired knit? There is the chunky Rory sweater. That is by Rosie Purnell. And Rory wears one that's similar in the show. Barbara Walker has the Dayflower stitch pattern. Knitters have used that and just modified to make it maybe not so wide to recreate one of Rory's white knit scarves. It's like a lace scarf. And that brings me to one that I've actually made. It's very Rory inspired, but not an exact copy. I didn't want to exactly copy. It's the episode where Rory and Paris. It's a really good episode. They're trying to escape miserable, cold New England spring break.
But not one person can stop by for 2 seconds to sign a stupid petition. People suck. You all suck. Paris, no price.
They're supposed to be raising funds for something, and instead they go to Florida, like to Daytona Beach or something.
Your cover's down and we're all in the bed. Why? We are sharing this room with 4 other girls, Rory. Plus 10K Barbie. We have to stake out our territory. Yes, and then we need to up your dosage. Look, person comes in. They see a dent in the bed, possibly a hair on the pillow. They will figure that bed is taken. They will then move on to the couch or the rollaway.
That episode was so much fun because it's one of those where Rory and Paris's relationship is really cemented as good friends. And that's always fun. When you see people who are so diametrically opposed come together, it's always good.
Okay, suit yourself.
Before they get to Florida, Rory is wearing a chevron, super long scarf. This is a tube type knit. Rory's is not. You can see the reverse side, like when there's a color change, you can see the pearl bumps on the reverse, which is neat looking. And that makes a neat design detail if that's what you want. But I wanted the ease of knit-only stitches. So I used Antonia Shankland. I think it's called the Unicorn Stripes pattern. And I modified it to be thinner. So it's just not quite so big of a tube. That way I could use my unicorn tails from Madeline Tosh that I had. And also some of the leftovers from knits. And so much thought went into how will I stripe these? Will I repeat it? What will the order be? And I believe I did all of this for a Gilmore Girls knit along with Very Shannon. I think it was in preparation for A Year in the Life. And this is my most worn scarf because it's just so much fun. As far as exact matches of some of Rory's knits or crochet items, I'm not usually in a limo by Maria Keys. That is a crochet scarf that looks exactly like one she wears during the Logan years. I picture her putting it on and jumping in a convertible with him. Very Isadora Duncan, like it's flying behind her. It's a long scarf. It's a really pretty crochet scarf. The Rory Gilmore hat with a pom-pom by Malene LaCroix. This one is an exact match for one she wears during, I think it was season 7. Will You Be My Lorelai Gilmore was the name of the episode. I think it's the one where she bails on planning Lane's baby shower because she's just Rory. And no one says, hey, that's not cool, Rory. There's a blue cabled hat that looks just like one from the Jess year. And that one's by Lucia Art on Ravelry. And then I think my favorite of all of the Rory knits, other than the one I actually made, is Meredith Small did a tam inspired by Rory's golf tam that she wears in Kill Me Now. I think it's episode 3 of the first season. She goes golfing with her grandfather, and it's the sweetest episode because she's trying nervously to make connections with these estranged grandparents. It was back when Rory was who Rory was meant to be, when the vision was still clear. I have this theory about, maybe it has to do with writer turnover or the aging audience, but I call it like the Roseanne factor. It's like these shows about families start with kids who act like kids, and they're played by people who are probably still kids. Sometimes they're not. They've got parents, and there's conflict, there's problems, they pick on one another, but in the end, they are a family. And then at some point, the kids start to grow up, and by the time they're playing later teens, they're probably actors nearing 30, and the audience might be aging too. And so it's like they throw in all these crazy twists and turns. I don't know if they're looking for an interesting plot or trying to decide who they want these characters to be, but everything you've seen built up to this point is just thrown away. They'll betray their own character that they've been developing and growing all this time. That frustrates me. I feel like it's not true to the character. I totally bought Rory screwing up some. even the affair with Dean. I totally bought it. It's like, yeah, sure, it needed to happen. She and her mom needed to confront the fact that Rory was not perfect. She wasn't the better version of Lorelai, and she shouldn't be. In fact, all of Lorelai's scrimping and saving and promoting Rory as this wonderful person might have been damaging her. It might have been keeping her from fully developing or creating a sense of entitlement that maybe Rory needs to work through, like most people in their youth to some degree, but not in this show. And of course, as the show goes on, you see connections between Lorelai and her mother, but I just don't feel like they did enough to connect the dots between Lorelai and Rory and Emily. That episode where she screws up with Dean, it was palpable. The anger and the disappointment Lorelai felt, and the whole town feels it, and there's a short reaction. But then it's like nothing that a movie marathon can't fix, and it's just sort of not really discussed a lot afterward. Rory just moves forward to cross boundaries without consequences, and Lorelai continues to, after being so upset with her daughter for home wrecking, she continues to flirt forever with Christopher, even when they're both in committed relationships. It's like, I don't know. I don't even know that the show's writers really got that. I think most people felt really upset by the end, even of the very first run of the show, that Rory finally did mess up and she did not learn from it. Within an episode, whatever consequences were over, and she was back at it, lying, stealing, betraying, writing her mother's personal life story without her permission, bristling at the slightest criticism, and even kind of refusing to work until she got a job that she thought was of her caliber. That is just not the Rory of the early seasons. That's when I came out of the fantasy. And I was like, okay, I don't think these writers know what they want to do with Rory. I don't think they're trying to show us a type of person that exists or the type of person that's inside of each of us and we don't want to see. I really don't think they know what they're doing. Another thought I've had is that if this show is Amy Sherman Palladino kind of cosplaying lower middle class American families, I just don't know if they're in touch enough to know what a person like Rory would grow up to be like. Did they even think the stuff Rory did was wrong? Like when she starts climbing the ranks at the school newspaper by writing a review making fun of a dancer's weight. Not her skill, just her weight. And it's like, it was treated like it was kind of cute, a little embarrassing when she was confronted, but cutesy, By the time A Year in the Life comes along, I'm positive the writers don't think what Rory's doing is wrong. They see these terrible choices as complications. Whew, she's made a real complicated life for herself, but it's not like she's being a horrible homewrecker. She's just complicated. And everyone eggs it on, like Luke and Lorelai continuing to laugh about and thinking it's okay that she acts like her boyfriend is so boring she doesn't even remember he's there. He's treated so rudely and inhospitably. That just didn't seem like those characters. I just want to leave you with one thought. Would Rory of season 1 and 2 like the latter Rory? Or would Lorelai of season 1 and 2 like the Rory that we ended up with? And here's the real clincher. Would either Lorelai or Rory at any point have tolerated Christopher dating a woman that acted like Rory in the latter episodes or seasons? All right, so what Rory inspired sweater would I want? I'll tell you the one I want. It is Winter's Weather Knits double date sweater. It is based on the sweater that Rory wears double dating with her mom and Max with Dean. She did modify the pattern, which is great and fine. And it's a drop shoulder. It's not as fitted as in the original, but the modified pattern still looks like something you would see Rory or Lane wear. So these are the colors that I got to go with it. I have Upcycle Alpaca Blend from Knit Picks, which feels so nice. When it goes on sale, I really think this is a quality yarn. It feels super nice, but I don't think it would be overly hot, and it's sport weight. So for someone living in a warmer climate, it's a way to get a little alpaca fix without going, you know, all the way with worsted or a heavyweight. So my main color is called Slate. It's like a navy gray. And then I have as my contrast colors, olive, squirrel, and black pearl, a gray. So basically, this is the color palette. The bulk of it will be this blue color, but I really do like these. These are the colors I love right here. That's why I'm so excited about a more graphic knit with my Wednesday vest. There is that sweater Rory wears when Lorelai shows her the inn that she wants to buy. It's like, it's really pretty plain, but it has a color blocking. I like that. I think that would be fun to figure out. And then there's also that Fair Isle with the solid sleeves, but the Fair Isle body that she wears during the Logan years. That's another one that I really think would be fun to try and figure out. Both of those are on the more fitted side. I don't know when I would want to do that though. I've just been enjoying more positive ease in clothing. We come to Paris.
Now, Doyle sleeps very deeply, so don't worry about the hours. I, as you know, haven't slept through the night since the first time I saw The Wizard of Oz. Thank you, Mom. So I tend to do my crafts in the middle of the night. Hey, what's going on? When we moved into the neighborhood, we thought it would be good to take some self-defense classes. Krav Maga.
If we're going to talk about characters that are horrible, Paris is a good example of a character that you expect to act awfully and you kind of love her for it. She's like the Nellie Olson of the show. She's one of my favorites. She was also very buttoned up and very academic looking, but very put together. Lots of cables, lots of vests, but she was never slouchy ever, except like when she was having a breakdown. But even then, she looked like neater than I do right now. Things don't really get interesting with her until her college years when she starts to open up. And she goes through this like 70s retro phase, and she has some really great knits from this period. Like there's that granny stripe yoke sweater. So good. And then at one point, I think it's a sweatshirt, but I think it's really great sweater inspiration. This color blocked V-neck. It's kind of sports jersey style. I also love this deep V argyle that she wears when she's hiding in her own little fort in the Yale newspaper office. I guess she's breaking down again. And again, there's more argyle. Toward the end of the show, she is wearing a lot of the same professional looking but cutesy menswear type inspired outfits. Kind of fashion blogger of the early 2000s. I did like her cropped and fitted vests over like puff sleeve shirts. What you could recreate right now, there's the granny stripe yoke sweater. There's a pattern out for that called Paris's Die Jerk Jumper by Farrah Brown. That's already out. A bunch of people have made it. I already technically did one of her, a pattern that looks like hers. I just didn't do it knowingly. She wears a cardigan that's striped in the show, and I really feel like the collar, the style of it, even the weight of it is very similar to Hannah Fettig's Featherweight. So I made this featherweight. This doesn't fit me anymore, so I'm not wearing it. But I've kept it because I love it so much. This is a lace weight version, but a lot of people knit this in fingering, and it gives you less of, might can see this is a bit airy. If you want a more solid fabric, the fingering weight works well. And then you can just make, you see the collar is just like the one Paris has. And you can make the stripes whatever design you want. So the original wasn't even striped. It's from the Knitbot Essentials. That is the original featherweight. And so what many of us did was just extend the sleeves and extend the body. I don't believe there were any more modifications. I don't think I even did waist shaping. But I have links to my blog post and you can see all my notes there. Okay, so one of the characters I continue to love throughout the entire show, even to the end of A Year in the Life, is Lane.
This is the most radical thing a Kim has done since my cousin Nam got caught reading Maxim at summer camp. That must be your mom. Lane, you're turning white. What's wrong? Lane, I can't do this. Back to black right now. Hurry, go, go. This is insane. Rory, I just drank a gallon of liquid salad. Insanity is a daily staple at the Kim house. Go.
Lane is one of the characters that I liked through the entire show, and even more so by the end of Year in the Life. I feel like Lane and Zach are just the sweetest surprise. I kind of would feel bummed for her that Rory would speak about her own life as if, I'm just such a loser if I don't get into Harvard. I'm just such a loser if I don't finish Yale. I'm just such a loser if I don't work for the New York Times, you know, waiting for this perfect job to come along and just, you know, whining about it to her friend who did not even finish college. I don't know. It's like she's devaluing someone who didn't make those choices. I just feel like it's like, does Rory not get what she's saying? And I clearly don't think the writers do. But okay, we'll just forget about that and remember that the original vision of Rory is the one we like, right? And she and Lane were really good friends. And that was a fun friendship to watch unfold. Lane had probably the best knitwear to me of anyone on the show. Even if it was just like meant to hide contraband t-shirts from her mother. I really liked so many of the things she wore. It was very fun, lots of colors, and a sense of humor to it. There were often like interesting details, like there's that turtleneck. It's like a yoke sweater that's Fair Isle, but turtleneck, very something her mom would want her to wear, right? She's wearing it for that deep fried Korean Thanksgiving where she gets her first kiss from Dave. There's the really fun, outrageous jumbo coffee sweater, but also there's that big orange elephant sweater. That's a lot of fun too. Striped tie front sweater looks very nice. It looks like very 80s childhood to me. And then she has this awesome black, white, and gray sweater with, it looks like a duplicate stitch, but maybe an intarsia floral design on it. It's real spare, the design. My favorites though, I think you'll guess which ones they are. That bright green Fair Isle yoke sweater that she wears in season 1. That's sort of a Lane favorite online. And then I also love her diner cardigan. It's like a cropped fitted cardigan, looks kind of vintage with an applique, possibly also embroidered floral, like flower rosette on the cardigan, and she wears it a ton at work. It gives you a sense of knowing the person. Like, oh, that's her diner cardigan. There's also some argyle on Lane. So which one of Lane's knits can you knit right now? The jumbo coffee mug was pulled, but you could totally do it. You could totally make your own, especially if you go for one with positive ease. Just make sure you have your, you know, the number of stitches on the front, what you'll need, kind of chart it out. And there are tons of computer programs that will probably for free that will create intarsia or Fair Isle chart for you. I want to do that green, bright green yoke cardigan. Probably I wouldn't do it in those colors. I would feel like I need to use stash. But I think with an Elizabeth Zimmerman sweater formula, it's pretty easy to make a yoke sweater, and I could do something like it. Another one that many people have tried to recreate is this pom-pom hat. It's just a simple beanie. Kind of has a teddy bear look to it in a light brown. It's a simple beanie, but there's two pom-poms for ears at the top. And the only thing about it is it has like two little running lace patterns, like just like maybe a 4-row lace pattern that runs like little strips down the back. Same story as Lane. There's Suki.
What is this?
I made you dinner.
It smells terrific.
Lamb chops with Sicilian olives, rosemary and garlic, and a warm potato and chorizo salad.
What's that?
Beef jerky.
You made beef jerky for me, and you have CCR on. I know I like CCR. You don't like CCR.
Sometimes I like CCR, and tonight I like CCR.
You cheated on me!
And Virginia doesn't really remember why she quit watching the show. I think we've probably covered why, but she does remember liking Suki. Suki was one of those side characters that's more likable maybe than their main character best friend. She was a good friend to Lorelai through the entire show. Not always treated right by a Gilmore, much like Lane. She's usually in her chef's coat, but I like how they try and whatever little bit of her that's not exposed, you know, that's exposed from under the chef's coat, like it's usually her head. They'll put interesting hairdos, scarf, kerchief, hair bands on her, and it's always something fun and colorful. Like her knitwear in the show, lots of faux fur, novelty, bright colors, ruffles, and just fun colors and prints. She wore a lot of shrugs over dresses. For a Suki look that you could make right now with a pattern, Kristen Tyndike has the lazy crochet kerchief. There's also a striped scarf she wears in the show, which is looks kind of patchwork. And you could do that. You could figure that out on your own, but there is the long skinny. And I think it was inspired by the Gilmore Girls by Jen Peck. I'm linking that too. So now we're to the senior Gilmores.
One time Suki came and brought us some foie gras, and Mom stuck it on a pizza.
How was it?
Pretty good once we took the foie gras off. Try it. If you want to get really crazy, you can pick it up.
Well, here goes nothing. That's wonderful.
And like Paris, they're awful, but you expect them to be awful and you kind of live for their bickering banter. So I don't really expect much from them, especially Emily. But occasionally there were moments where you think, something good is going to happen. And like the road trip she took with Lorelai and Rory. Or when she realizes what a strong businesswoman Lorelai is, because she helps her with her own affairs and she's impressed and grateful. Things like that, you think, yes, that's going to happen, but then, you know, something crummy happened. I just kept waiting for a story arc, and what we got was more of a story circle, but their clothing was boring. I love how confused Pinterest was when I tried to pin Emily Gilmore outfits. I get that they're like New England Richie, uptight snobs, but it's sort of a caricature of what that would look like. I don't really think people in their position would have dressed quite so old-fashioned or boring. I do like the idea of a Coco Chanel style ladies who lunch jacket. I think that would be fun. And it was trendy, right? I feel like maybe it was the early 2000s, late 90s. A Chanel style jacket with jeans was kind of fun for regular people to wear. Ruthie Nussbaum has a Coco jacket. And then there's this Ponsonby skirt and jacket set that comes with, this is an older book, Knit Two Together. This is a really fun book. Mel Clark and Tracy Ullman. Do you remember her? She was a comedian. There's this Ladies Who Lunch outfit. It kind of looks Jackie O to me. Isn't that cute? I love the texture. It's a really cute set. But if you want something that's more of the classic plaid Coco Chanel look, but a little modern. Knit Collage has a really great, I think it's called the Party Plaid cardigan. Really cool. So, not as boring as the Gilmores is Kirk.
I love your daughter. Who are you to love my daughter? What do you have to offer her? Only this.
Of all the Gilmore Girls characters, I never would have thought I'd want to look like Kirk. I agree with She Bear. Kirk has aged well, where Emily did not. Some Kirk looks that you might want to steal for yourself. There's his mime sweater. I suggest the Candy Stripe Raglan by Jen Pellerin for something more worsted weight. And then if you want it to be more fingering or sport weight, Adult Tide Pool by Andrea Sanchez. And I like the added buttons. It's a Kirk Rory mashup maybe. There's his Film by Kirk look, which is basically a grandpa sweater. But believe it or not, there aren't a lot of patterns for this type of grandpa sweater on Ravelry. I think because it's saddle shoulder and smaller regular cables. Just a really neat look. I did find one by Eleanor Burnett. It's an older pattern. I don't know if it's still in print, and it doesn't have as many cables. But Jen Hagen has a more current take. Lots of cables. I would say it's not as fine a knit as the one Kirk's wearing, but if you really wanted to make it, it would be a lot of fun to make. Please, if you've never seen Kirk's film, it's a short, click the link. And then last but not least, so our knitting takeaway. We all need Lane's yoke top. In fact, we've probably all knit something like it or even more complicated than that. But those are fun colors, and it's just kind of fun to have a souvenir from a TV show. Kooky colors and materials work really well in accessories. And Fair Isle and cable sweaters, they age well, whether they're fitted or have a lot of positive ease. Also, do wear Argyle, but do it in small doses. For non-knitters, there's a website. We used to have Polyvore, and people would piece together kind of like internet paper dolls, basically. Pieces from different places all over the web, and then have links to where you would find all of the pieces. But Spottern is a good website for locating stuff, and I found recent TV series outfits and some older ones in Spottern. I discovered a whole world of Gilmore Girl commentary. I didn't watch any videos about knitwear in the show or thoughts about the characters until I already had decided what I wanted to say to you, because I wanted it to be unpolluted. I wanted to have my own personal take. So much of YouTube now is just cannibalizing other people's ideas, and I wanted it to be my take. And I was surprised. I couldn't find any videos like this, so I don't know, maybe they're out there, but I didn't find them. What I did find was pretty interesting, and I've linked a few for you because they were fun. I just typed in Gilmore Girls theory. Try that sometime. Oh my gosh, there's so much out there, and I think it's kind of made a bit of a revival discussing it on TikTok. You'll see everything from these inane AI narrated videos that just tell you the facts. Lorelai is the mom, Rory is the daughter, to angry diatribes about women like, how could Rory, she's supposed to be a feminist, how could she become a pick-me girl, how could she fat shame like this, like real feelings about it, to people just complaining about how unrealistic this real estate that Lorelai owns is and how unattainable her lifestyle might be. They discuss this false world where debt and transactional relationships are a given and almost seen as necessary with no real plan to pay it back. A few people out there agree with me that this attitude the writers and everyone surrounding Rory seem to have, that girls will be girls is the new boys will be boys. Oh, and then there's quite a bit of discussion about how calories are just a suggestion in the Gilmore Girls. not a scientific fact of body chemistry. Yes, they wasted some good opportunities for character development, and all of the women could have done more self-searching. They could have connected the dots between their personalities and how they got here from there. But you know what? It's just TV. So I bashed it a little. But you know what? I still like watching it. I still want to smell snow. And I still love those Friday night dinners. I love Friday night is good for a fight. I think that's the name of my favorite episode, in which they go through every possible emotional reaction in one really long scene of spinning camera angles. It's so good. So with the Gilmore Girls, I just do what I do with like literally every other TV series I ever loved that failed me in the last season or two. I rewatch the beginning in earnest, and then I prepare myself for the Battlestar Galactica Black Market moment. And then after that, it's just fun, ridiculous fun, and I try to enjoy it. I hope you don't mind my super talky episode making. And I hope you all are indulging me with all of the images I'm showing you. I got to an image count that was ridiculous, and I was like, I can't believe I'm doing this. Those of you who are giving me famous knit ideas, keep them coming. I'm keeping a running list. And if I don't mention it, I'll probably get to it later when I focus on, say, that series or that type of series. This is something I'm going to be doing for quite a while. I'm really excited about doing this. I've been thinking about it for about 10 years. I've wanted to do this since I was heavily into blogging before I had a YouTube channel, but my lifestyle was just too young kids, aging relatives. I just was too busy. So I'm so pleased to have the time to do this now. So keep your famous knit ideas coming. See you later.
Shut out. Enforcer kill.